Hey, Taylor Ellwood here, and today I want to share with you a core axiom of magic that I apply in my life, in magic, really just in everything. It's called adjust and adapt. I came up with it years ago because something I quickly came to realize is that sometimes we don't have control over everything around us that we'd like to have. But we do have control over one thing. We have control over how we respond to situations. We have control over the choices that we make. And when life feels like it's chaotic and out of control, when we find ourselves doom scrolling or worried about what's going on in the world, or we're just concerned about our personal circumstances, one of the most powerful choices that we can make is to stop and say, what do I have control over here? And part of that means that we adjust to the situation at hand. Now, I share this. I'm sharing this at a time right now, at the time of this recording, where there is a lot going on in the world, and it feels like like a lot of us don't really have a lot of control over what's happening. So I don't say this lightly. I think one of the most important choices that we can make is to adjust to a situation. And adjusting doesn't mean that we agree with the situation or that we settle for it. It means that we look at it and we say, well, what is it I need to do? I can either be in this situation and be operating from a place of helplessness, playing the part of the victim, or I can make a choice. And that choice could be any number of different things. And this is a really important component of this work that we take, is that we adjust and we adapt. We don't just settle for a situation and say, well, okay, this is what's happening and I just have to go along with it. Instead, what we do is we really take a good hard look at it and we say, what am I willing to do to change or address this situation? What am I willing to do to resolve it in my favor? What am I willing to do to adapt the circumstances that are occurring right now in order to make things work out? I'll tell you, I don't always have easy answers on this one. At the time of this recording, I'm dealing with some situations myself in my life where I'm having to adjust to the situation at hand. And it's like, okay, what do I do about that? I choose to meet the situation head on. I choose to make choices that are going to help me to resolve it. These aren't necessarily easy choices, but they are the choices that I'm finding and that are available to me. And so what I'm doing is I'm adjusting to those circumstances and addressing the changes that need to be made in order to create the opportunities for me that will open some doors. As magicians, one of the things that I think is really important to recognize is that what makes our magic powerful isn't always about like creating the ideal reality. It's about being able to take a situation that you're in and find a way to address it or resolve it without letting it take over your life. A lot of times this means that you adjust to a situation where you're kind of like, okay, there's some challenges here. What am I going to do about this? And the answer is, I'm going to take a look at the circumstances, apply what I know, and address it in whatever way I can in order to move forward in a way that gives me the leverage I need to succeed. I can tell you that this isn't always easy to do. I can also tell you it is one of the most important choices that you can ever make, because a lot of times what ends up happening is that we open ourselves up to these circumstances where we'll say like, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, or I can't adjust to the reality here, or whatever else. And it's like, well, no, you can adjust to circumstances. And then you can adapt those circumstances to your in your favor. That's part of what we do as magicians. We take the circumstances and we turn them into opportunities that get us results. This is one of the most important skills that you can ever learn as a magician and really just as a person. Instead of railing against the control or lack of control that you have in a situation, instead of saying, like, I don't like this situation, say, okay, yeah, here's the situation, and here's what I can do about it, and here's what I can do to move forward. I think another part of this component is like really just taking responsibility and ownership for the situations that we're in. Sometimes that means taking a good hard look and saying, yeah, the reason I'm in this situation is because of choices that I made. Okay. And what can you do to learn from those choices? What can you do to turn those into opportunities for growth and transformation? This is part of the work that we do as magicians on the internal work, that inner work of awareness and recognition, that work that pulls out the shadow and addresses it. But it's also part of what we do with the work in the world around us in terms of applying magic to the world around us. It's saying, like, okay, here's these circumstances, and I'm going to turn this into my favor. I'm going to apply the circumstances that I'm in and transform the situation so that I can get the result that I want. And that means just taking a deep breath in and adjusting to the circumstances and then doing whatever it is you need to do in order to turn things around so that you can get where you want to go. This is one of those key skills that I think we can learn more of in magic. And really, when we look at magic, magic is a practice of manufacturing results. It's a practice of a process, right? Part of that process, though, is being able to actually take a look at the circumstances that we're in and say, okay, well, here's the circumstances, and here's what I can do about the situation with magic. Here's what I can do mundanely. Here's what I can do to turn this into an opportunity that moves me forward instead of keeping me back. And when we can do that, it means that we are creating the circumstances that move things in our favor. Now, if you have any questions about what I'm sharing, feel free to drop those in the live chat. I'm more than happy to answer them as we continue onward. And really, what I want you to know as well is that you're not alone, right? None of us are alone. This is something that's not said enough in our society in general. It's important to recognize, like, in the circumstances that we're dealing with, whatever it is that we're having to adjust to, that a lot of times we're not alone, that there are other people out there who are where we're at, and they're doing the best they can as well. And so what do? We own and acknowledge that things are maybe not as ideal as they could be. We adjust the circumstances, and then we adapt them, and we adapt them through magic. We adapt them through other choices and actions. We turn things around in our favor, and it may take a little while. But by turning it around in our favor, we create the circumstances that opens the door for those possibilities to come through, and opens the door for greater opportunities to come through. And this is a huge part of this magical work and the way that we look at things. This is one of the reasons why I like working with entities. It's one of the reasons why I do a lot of space-time magic. It's one of the reasons why I do other things. It's taking a look at the circumstances and turning things around in a way that it opens the doors and creates the opportunities that we otherwise think aren't there. They are there. There are always opportunities available to us, but we have to take ownership and control of the most important element in all of this, which is our sense of self and what that self is telling us. It is very easy to get caught up in your head and to be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how this is going to work out. I need to have things under this level of control. I need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, you can operate from that perspective. Or what you can do is you can operate from, I'm going to surrender the situation as it is. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how I can adapt it in my favor and how I can find the result that I want to manifest that's going to get me where I want to go. When you can apply that skill, not just to your magic, but really to your life in general, what you will find is that it gives you a level of adaptability to circumstances that most other people don't have. Most people get caught up in having a control narrative. They get caught up in the idea that, hey, I need to have things be a certain way. And because they're caught up in having things be a certain way, what ends up happening is they're actually losing out on the ability to say, like, well, what could I learn from this situation? Or how could I turn this situation around? They're actually significantly diminishing their ability to respond. They're caught up in suffering. And when we're caught up in suffering, we're usually caught up in it from a place of things aren't the way that I want it to be. I don't like it, and I'm going to be unhappy about it. Well, that is its own form of energy that is taking up your ability to respond. It is taking away from your ability to adjust and adapt. It is taking away from the means that you can actually go and do something about it. This is one of the reasons why what I recommend doing is developing an observer mindset about yourself. Like when you're caught up in your thoughts, like just take a step back and recognize that your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are just the monkey mind speaking up and saying this is how it needs to be. When you have emotions come up and they're hard to deal with or process, like sit with them, get comfortable with them, but also recognize they are just an experience. They are not you. You can experience multiple emotions in a day and not have that be the reality. And when you're dealing with a situation where you're like the circumstances are like challenging or tough, be like, okay, well, they're challenging or tough. What can I do to transform this? What could I do to turn this into an opportunity? How might I get curious and learn or discover? All of these options are available to us if we're willing to explore them. And that's what I would share with you today as far as a magical axiom. And I hope that if you have any questions, feel free to leave some comments, and I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.